If you're hurt, injured, don't waste time. Gary Johnson cries for every dime.
Welcome to Simply the Law, a program created by attorney Gary C. Johnson. Simply the Law provides free legal advice and encourages happiness and quality of life. Now, here's Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson. Hello, everyone. Welcome into Simply the Law. I'm Keith Casebolt, my good friend in the new year, Gary C. Johnson.
We're here. We made it a year, guys. We made it a whole year. Think about it. Isn't it wonderful? Woo-hoo! Happy New Year's. Any of you broke your resolutions yet? Been a week? Of course you have. It's just the way it goes, right? But that's okay. It's okay to be human. Thank you guys for being with us. And I want to start off this program, this New Year's, with a little bit of a story about what I did. I decided to go over to the Pine Mountain Grill in Wattsburg to a little New Year's event that some folks were having. And I got over there and I met two really interesting people. I consider them VIPs. And I want to shout out to those folks. Hi, Eva. Hi, Rhonda. These are the two ladies at the Pine Mountain Grill on New Year's Eve that were making sure that everyone got the food they need to have, that it was perfection. And I went over and decided to chat with them. It was about 8 o'clock in the evening, at which time they told me they'd been working since 7:30 that morning. Unbelievable. And it dawned on me, these are literally the most important people at this party, because without them, there would be no food. And how can you have a party with no food, right? Especially somebody helping you get it, cutting it up for you, putting it out there, making it look good. Eva, Rhonda, again, I want to thank you for being there and doing what you were doing. You literally, and folks like you all over this country, every day are the people that are the backbone of our society. And there is no one in this universe more important than you are. And I hope you will understand that and believe it from the bottom of your heart, because you should. Again, my thanks and my shout out to Eva and Rhonda, the two VIPs that I met at that New Year's party.
You know, Gary, this is the thing that I really love about what you do. Most people were in a hurry to get to the party. They're getting there at 8:30. They walk in, they go, oh, everything's great. You're the guy that says, who are the people that pulled off this magic? And you go over and find these two ladies to find out the story that they had spent 12 hours preparing everything so that everyone's experience was going to be A+. And you got the story, and not only did you get the story, but you got a chance to thank them for doing it.
And I made myself two really good friends, right, ladies? I hope you guys have a wonderful New Year and a whole year and the rest of your life, because if anybody in this world deserves it, you do. You're extremely important. Again, from the bottom of my heart, on behalf of everyone, I want to thank you for being who you are, because you are what makes it all work. Now, what are we going to talk about today? It's New Year's. Some of you have made resolutions, right? Some of you may have backslid just a little bit, especially on those that you were going to go on a diet. But it's okay, because you can't stop being a human being. And I notice Keith is over here snickering, because I'm sure he made his 25th annual New Year's resolution to lose weight. And I suspect he may have already done a little bit of backsliding.
Let me tell you why I'm laughing is because you and I got together the other day at the office and we were doing the radio program, and I pulled out my list of my New Year's resolutions, and you looked at them and you said, same thing you had last year. There was no difference. I had all the same stuff down, and you were like, yeah, I've seen these year after year after year. And maybe some of our friends feel like they've been caught up into that.
This dieting, this tough stuff, huh? And you got all of these fad diets that you can get out. I was reading about this low carb diet, and it said, don't worry, if you go on that low carb diet, you can lose 5 to 10 pounds of water in a week. Water.
Yeah. Not weight.
Not weight, water.
Yeah.
Really and truly, a change in your lifestyle. If you really want to lose weight, take it slow, 1/2 pound to 1 pound a week at the max. Don't even try to do more. Watch what you take in. Try to get some exercise if you're able and can. And over time, it'll change. If you get out here and decide I'm going to suffer and I'm going to do it and I'm going to kill myself and I'm going to starve and I'm going to fast and I'm going to do this fad diet and I'm going to go broke trying to get all these ingredients in on this fad diet because I don't have any of them in the house. You don't. Yeah. Then it won't work. It doesn't work. But a lifestyle, a change, simply saying, I'm going to lose 1/4 of a pound this week. I'm going to lose 1 ounce this week. At least you're going in the right direction. Most of us after, and especially over the holidays, we go up instead of down. Don't brag about being on a diet. Don't publicize that you're on a diet. Do it for no one else in the world except yourself, just you, and do it a little bit at a time. We didn't get our extra weight overnight. It took a long time. Take a year or two. What difference does it make? If you live, you're going to be the same age anyhow. But don't get in a hurry and don't suffer. When I'm saying don't suffer, that means, yes, don't eat the ice cream when you want it. You can have that kind of suffering. But don't, just do a little bit.
Gary, let me tell you three changes that I noticed over the holidays. One, you always talk about this, about, opening a door and being kind and being respectful. Over the holidays, I saw more people open doors for individuals, people saying Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Good Morning, the greetings that I saw from people, genuinely pleased to see each other. Number two, you mentioned the lifestyle change. It's almost like you can't go anywhere now that you don't see people out walking, exercising, enjoying our beautiful area that we have. And then number three, and I think this one is important, I talked to an individual from a wrecker service who said, let Gary know on New Year's Eve, we are always busy with towing cars from DUIs. The phone never rang once. And I said, he will want to hear that. He said, the first time in the history of New Year's Eve, we never got a call. People are listening and obeying.
Isn't that wonderful? No calls. No wrecks because somebody was drunk. Woo. Maybe my friends are learning. Maybe we're starting to understand that we all live on this big rock together and we all need each other, and how badly we need each other, and how bad we need each other to obey the safety rules. If everyone obeyed the safety rules, you wouldn't have any wrecks. You wouldn't have anyone hurt. You wouldn't have anyone's life ruined. Think about how important that is. There's one little thing that I really wasn't aware of. It was a little nuance in a statute that I ran into the other day. So I'm going to pass it on to you folks. You come up behind a person that's getting ready to make a left-hand turn. What do? Well, there may be a nice, handsome shoulder on the right-hand side. So the tendency would be, well, I'll just get over on this shoulder and go around them. The law says, yes, you can do that. But first, you have to come to a complete stop, and then slowly go around that person. And what the law understands is that the person that's making the left turn may change their mind. And you could end up in a wreck by just barreling around them, coming up on them and seeing them and cutting off on the shoulder and going on. Can't do it. You're breaching a legal safety rule if you do that. And guess what? I didn't know that.
And I guess that we're assuming, because the signal light is on to turn left, that the car is going to turn that way, and we're free to go, but they may have put the signal light on the wrong way. They may have missed the wrong turnoff. They may have just changed their mind and said, no, I'm going this way, and you're going to be the guilty party.
And the law understands that people do change their minds, or people may put the wrong signal on. So it's the duty of the person following that person to do the safe thing. Stop, ease out around if you're going to pass them on the right or the shoulder, so that if something they do change your mind, you're going slow enough to where you can see it and react to it, and make sure you're being safe when you do it. Simple. It's a rule. It's a duty. And I'll bet you that there's not a single one of you knew that. Because it's a buried little old bitty statute that I just found the other day when I was going through and looking at some stuff. We are going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to go to the computer. But first, I want to thank you guys and gals for spending some time with us. It's a wonderful time to be alive. It's a wonderful time to have the people around you. And look over at whoever's with you in that room right now and say to them, thank you for being here. Without you, I would be alone. Now, you may be a little bit mad at them. You still can't do without them, okay? And there is nothing worse than being alone. That's why the punishment for prisoners is solitary confinement. And if you mess up and don't do what you're supposed to do and aren't nice, you may find yourself in solitary confinement without being in prison, okay? So be grateful to the people in your lives. Look over and say to the person that's with you, thank you for being in my life, because if you weren't, I would be here alone. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
That could be the best advice to start 2019 from Gary. Stay with us. This is Simply the Law. Gary C. Johnson and I will be right back after you see this.
I'm attorney Gary C. Johnson. I hate these commercials as bad as you do. I have no choice if I want to let you know that I'm in the business of practicing law, representing injured people, except to do this commercial. I don't fish, I don't golf, I get money for injured people. Check my record, go to GaryCJohnson.com, and I'll bet you if you've been hurt, you might want to give me a call.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. You know, you opened up the program with a shout out. I promised I would do this. On the Christmas weekend, the wife and I decided to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go shopping so that it wouldn't be crowded, only to find out that it was really crowded. But I met a great guy, Rick Ray, from over at Wheelwright. He too thought he would beat the crowd at 5 o'clock in the morning, but we got into a wonderful discussion He watches the show and listens to the radio show, worked on the railroad, went through a discussion to find out that his son was an airline pilot, his daughter a nurse. I ended up working with my father, and he talked about the program, and I ended up spending about 20 or 30 minutes, he and I, having a wonderful conversation the weekend of Christmas. While everybody was worried about getting that buggy full, we took a little time out to talk, and I wanted to send a shout out to Rick and tell him thank you for watching the program.
Wonderful. See, that's what it's all about. Talk to people, visit with them. Everyone has a story, and generally, it's pretty interesting. You'll never know those stories if you don't talk to them, hang out with them. Talk to people in a waiting room. Everybody sits around like this in a waiting room.
Gary, the greatest story you told was when you had a delay at the airport and the people you were with were so upset they were going to be delayed, and you went over and started talking to a couple who had traveled the world and they were from Canada, and they told you all of these things, and you said the next thing I know, they were saying you need to board. The time flew by because you were listening to an interesting story.
Say their stories. We need each other so bad. And when we don't have each other, it's so sad.
I like that. I like that.
Let's go to the computer. I want to talk to you folks about some stuff. There's our number in case any of you need to call us. Website, GaryCJohnson.com. In general, please make sure you have underinsurance that protects you and your family. And please do not waive uninsured motorists. A lady came in last week that had signed a waiver to save a few dollars that she did not want uninsured motorists. She not only did she not have underinsurance, she did not have uninsured motorists. And guess what? She'd been hit by somebody who didn't have insurance. She wasn't going to get a dime on anything.
You know, Gary, what's so sad about this, and you've pointed it out, is that so many of us are on budgets, and you're looking to save, and you're looking to try to hold on to every dollar you can, and you get in there and you're trying to buy the insurance as cheap as you can, not realizing that if something happens to you, you're destroyed.
Uninsured motors, uninsured is dirt cheap. If you can afford anything, you can afford it. But you go into the agent and you say, I want to get the cheapest possible insurance that I can get so I can license my car. And the agent may very well say, well, you can waive this uninsured motorist. You have to sign a form and waive it. Otherwise, the law, it is so important that people have it that the law requires them to put it on your policy unless you sign that you don't want it. And it's dirt cheap. Don't do it, okay? Enough on that. Let's keep going. Back to the computer. Arbitration. When you go to a nursing home or a hospital, they may very well ask you or put in front of you a form to sign that says you agree to arbitration if they cause you harm. Now, as I've said before, you don't have to sign those. But there are some circumstances, if you want the services, that you do have to sign it, and I need to clarify this because a guy called me on it. If it's an individual doctor, and that individual is not subject to the requirements to treat anyone that comes to them, then they can require you to sign an arbitration agreement before they give you services.
I did not know that.
Well, it's a hole in the thing on arbitration that I had not told the folks about.
Gary, does that make things even more confusing for our friends and the public to understand?
Yeah. The big deal, where you're really going to have a problem, is if it's a nursing home or a hospital. Now, they cannot force you to sign that in order to give you services because they are regulated by the government, and they have, if you have the insurance and the things, they have to provide you the services. An individual doctor isn't under those laws, and they may take a position that, as an individual doctor, I'm not going to treat anyone that won't sign an arbitration clause. Well, my recommendation to you is if you can find a different doctor, find one. But if you really need that doctor's services, you don't have any choice but to sign their arbitration agreement. Okay?
Okay.
Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
We have got more to talk to you about. The program is Simply the Law. Take a break. We'll be right back with Gary C. Johnson right after this.
Insurance companies will test lawyers to see if they know what they're doing. Luckily, they tested me. And because of that, over the years, I've been able to get verdicts for my clients in excess of $315 million in the state of Kentucky, most of which are just in eastern Kentucky. We proved we know what we're doing. We proved we can go in front of a jury. And guess what? Most of my cases settle now. Wonder why? Give us a call.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. I'm glad you brought out the information you did because things get so confusing. It gets confusing when you're not hurt, injured, sick, or upset. But when all those things are going on with you and all of a sudden people are shoving paperwork to you and telling you you need to do this and you need to do this, it's really confusing.
Most people are embarrassed to say, I don't want to sign this. You think, well, it's in these papers here, I'm supposed to. After all, I need to get into the hospital so bad. Sign it.
You want to feel better. You want some help.
You're sick, and the sick's what's being preyed on. Back to the computer. Okay. We've got facts that's used to apply the common law are found by a jury. I'll talk to you a little bit about this. Now, what do I mean by that? It took centuries of trial and error in England to mold the jury system we have today. There's a book out that Who Will Speak for the Victim by a fellow by the name of Jim Perdue. And in it he tells a story about the jury when it was first being formed in England. In the beginning, the king, through the prosecutor, would tell the jury how to rule in criminal cases. In about 1680, a young man was brought in for rabble-rousing. A trial was held, and the king made his wish clear through the prosecutor that the young man was to be convicted. After 2 days of deliberation, the jury came back with a verdict of not guilty. The judge told the jury to go back out and return a verdict on the king's wishes. 2 more days of deliberating, and the jury returned a verdict of not guilty. This continued for several weeks. The circumstances the jury lived in were not good. They kept them sequestered and only gave them like bread and water. I mean, they were really tortured them almost. Many of them became ill. In fact, I think one of the jurors actually died during that period of time. Finally, they were brought back in, and for all they knew, they were going to be killed by the king. The judge asked, "What is your verdict?" The jury said, "Not guilty." The judge then asked, "When will your verdict be guilty?" And the jury said, "Never." And that was the beginning of when the jury became independent of the king. That was the first case.
That was the shift of the power.
It was a shift to where that the jury was the one that had the power to determine the guilt rather than the king. Because the jury was worthless before that. What good were they if they had to do what the king said every time? This jury made the precedent. And those people are the shoulders that we're riding on today because of the system we have and the jury system we have.
You know, and Gary, when you tell this story, maybe all of our friends are sitting there going, well, that was noble, and that's what I would have done. I'm sitting here listening to you tell that the conditions and that they could have been killed. I would have liked to have thought that I would have done the right thing. But in order to get out of those conditions and to save my own neck, you know, I might have said, hey, I'll go with the king.
I suspect if it was me, they'd poor old fellow would have been guilty.
But what's this say for the jury? I mean,
Yeah.
it was so important to them to do the right thing, they were willing to possibly die for it.
Let's take our last break and then we'll be right back.
Well, that's a great story. I mean, that's the reason that we talk about the jury system, and if you ever need them, you know that's how they come to perform the task they have to with that mindset. Stay with us. We'll finish up Simply the Law with Gary C. Johnson right after this.
You notice on the legal advertisement of lawyers that they've made verdicts an issue? Well, guess what? This old boy from eastern Kentucky's got the largest verdict in the state of Kentucky, and nobody's even come close to it. Over my career, I've got my clients verdicts of over $315 million. Yep, I'm glad they made verdicts an issue. Check my record and I'll bet you decide it might be wise to give old Gary a call.
Welcome back into Simply the Law. You finished that segment with that story, and Gary, I thought about in modern day terms, the Kaylee Anthony case about the little girl. Everybody got upset because the jury came with the not guilty, but when they were interviewed, all of the jury said, in my heart of heart, I think she did it. But based upon the facts that were presented to the jury, we had to find her not guilty, and I am grief-stricken over it. These people were sick to their stomach that they had to make that decision, but based upon the facts, they did the right thing by the law.
Well, you see it all the time, where juries, there's something magic about a jury, I'm convinced of that. Maybe it's that number 12 that makes it magical. Juries take their job seriously. If you've ever been on a jury, you know what I mean. It's a big burden. It's tough. You're in there having to make a decision when you didn't see it, smell it, or taste it. You have to listen to what everybody else is saying and then make a decision. And you have no choice but to make a decision because the parties need a decision. What I always say to the jury in voir dire when we're first talking to them, I say to them, look, you didn't see it, you don't know anything about this situation, you're going to have to depend upon other people to give you the information for you to form a decision. And no matter what you hear and see in this courtroom, you're going to have some doubts. There is no way you're not going to have some doubt. And what the law expects of you is that you find in the direction you have the least doubt, because the parties have to have a solution to this situation. Both parties need this decision that you're to be rendering. And the law understands there's going to be doubt. And it's called more likely than not. If you feel something was more likely than not one way, then that's the way you have the least doubt.
My friend, what a great program. Thank you for all the information, and thank you so much for tuning in. It's 2019. On behalf of Gary C. Johnson, I'm Keith Casebolt. Thank you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you again next week, right here at the same time.
Thank you for watching Simply the Law, a program created by Gary C. Johnson. Until next week, may you be safe, blessed, and happy.